Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach. And today I'm talking about how to truly get over your ex for good. Okay, so obviously getting over someone you love is a very difficult thing to do, especially if you're with them for a long time or you've had feelings for them for a long time. It can be very difficult to let go. Okay, so what are some things then that can help you let go? Because that's what the situation is, right? You're finding it difficult to let go. So, letting go, you may need to do things like don't watch content on the no contact rule or tips and tricks on how to get your ex back, things like that. Be very wary of the content, basically, that you're consuming, okay? So, that's one thing that may help you with letting go. Okay, another thing that may help you with letting go is get rid of the Spotify playlist or the YouTube playlist of music, that reminds you of them. Don't indulge in those old memories, those via like music and things like that, because a lot of people do. They're pining after their relationship, and what they do is they play some sad songs or songs that remind them of the relationship, and it basically keeps them stuck, right? It keeps them stuck in those emotions. Right, because if you keep on revisiting those old emotions, then basically you're staying in that place. You're not moving on. You need new emotions. You need new experiences. So therefore you need to avoid listening to songs and stuff that remind you of your ex. And obviously sometimes you can't help it. Like you're in the car with your friend and one of those songs comes on the radio. Sometimes you can't really avoid these things, or you hear a song in a restaurant. I've had the experiences like that, and it's kind of like triggering. You're like, oh God, no, this reminds me of my ex. I need to get out of here, right? Things like that. I've definitely had experiences like that. So it's a good idea then to not indulge in those things privately, because sometimes you can't really avoid hearing those things, but you can in your own time, right? You can get rid of the playlist. You can decide not to listen to those songs anymore. Another thing as well that can help as well is don't go back through all the messages as well, overanalyzing all things that they said to you, trying to pick apart what they said to try and figure out what went wrong, or if there was some hint of them actually trying to wanting to be back, get back with you and things like that. Because sometimes we can overanalyze messages that people send us, especially. That doesn't just happen with exes, but it actually happens as well with, people that you're interested in, right? You start overanalyzing things that they've said to you, thinking that, oh, is this a sign that they like me and things like that. And sometimes we do that with our exes as well. We look back on old messages and thinking, oh, maybe that was an opportunity to get back together and things like that. So it's best not to overanalyze old messages. Try and delete them if you can. Block your ex on social media and things like that, so you can't visibly view those messages and things like that if you feel like you can't help yourself, because I know a few people can't. I struggled with this kind of thing when I was a teenager. It wasn't really for exes, but it was for girls that I liked. I would say, okay, I'm not going to look at their profile. I'm not going to look through the messages she sent me. But then I couldn't help myself. I just had to go and see. So if you feel like you have that and you can't help but go and look through those things, then you definitely need to block them so you can avoid that, right? Another thing that can help as well is obviously, which I've already kind of touched on a little bit, is not to look on their profiles, see what they're up to, view their stories, things like that. Because that's just going to lead to heartbreak, especially if they start dating someone new. So try to avoid their Facebook profile, their Instagram profile, looking at their stories and things like that. A good idea obviously is to block them if you feel like you're really struggling with this. Now, so a lot of people think that blocking someone is immature, and that's how I kind of felt as well. I felt like, oh yeah, blocking people is immature, but if it's for your sanity, it's not an immature thing to do. Because if you feel like you can't help yourself, you feel like you can't help but look at their profile, then it's a good idea to block them, or have some time off social media for a while. Change your password and give it to a friend and tell them not to give you the password until a certain amount of time has gone by. Things like that. So that can also help as well to help you let go, to avoid doing things like that, like overindulging in sitting with your feelings about them, looking at their photos, things like that, because that's just not going to help you and it's going to keep you stuck. Okay? So one of the things that can help you move on is to genuinely try to create a happier life for yourself. right? And I speak about this all the time. I speak about lifestyle all the time. And I think the reason why I do is because I think it's really important. Because if you can get your life right, or you can be on a path that you're happy with, because you may not be happy right now, but you can at least be happy with where you're going or where you're trying to go, the effort that you're putting in to try and get to that better place, basically, right? So if you can do that, right, that's going to really make you feel a lot more happier about yourself. So you got to really, take some time to like think. You might want to get a piece of paper and write these things down. Like, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? What kind of body would I like to have? What would I like my fitness levels to be? Where would I like my career to be? What kind of area do I want to be living in? What kind of people do I want to be hanging around with? What kind of things do I want to be getting up to on the weekends? What kind of hobbies do I want to indulge in? What kind of new skills do I want to learn? Figuring all of that stuff out, and then working towards it every single day so you can get to that better place. Because even then, if you're not happy with your life, you're at least trying to get out of that situation and trying to get yourself to a better place, right? And that can really help with moving on, because it gives you something else to focus on that isn't your ex. You're now focusing on bettering your life instead of focusing on the past, basically, because that's essentially what's going on here with an ex, right? You're focusing in the distant past with someone who no longer wants to be with you, because if they did, then they would still be with you. Right, so you got to start focusing on the future and stop looking back on the past, because when you look back on the past, it's usually very painful, usually embarrassing too, so you want to focus on things that are empowering, that are good for you. And obviously, I know it's not going to be all the time, I know that sometimes we can't help but indulge and think about the past, it's one of those things, right? We can't help but do that sometimes. So I'm not saying you should just forget about the past completely, because that's not going to happen. That's unrealistic, right? You are going to think about it, but you can at least keep yourself busy so you don't think about it as much, right? And if you're doing stuff that is helping you and benefiting you, then that's really going to help as well, okay? So the next point I want to make is that you need to have time to heal. Okay, it's not a good idea to get straight into a new relationship, because what you're going to be doing with that is you're going to be bringing all of the old baggage from that relationship into this new one. And because you haven't had time to heal, you haven't had time to process things, you're going to create the same kind of situation, and that person may end up leaving you, or you break up with them because you haven't changed as a person. And even though sometimes breakups can be completely the other person's fault, you still have to remember and think about what you had to play, the parts that you had to play in that, right? Because even if they were 99% to blame for everything, there's still that 1% that you can improve upon that was perhaps your fault, okay? And what you've got to realize as well is that when it comes to relationships, these things are rarely like, it's just solely one person's fault for things, right? And obviously you can't really control their part. You can't control what they did. You can't control the things that they did wrong, but you can control what you did, right? And you can think, okay, so I snapped this one time. I shouldn't have really spoken to that person in that way in front of my ex, because they got really angry about that, or they felt hurt for some reason, like maybe you're flirting with someone, whether it was, serious or not. It may have hurt them. You think, okay, I need to work on that kind of thing. I once gave my ex the silent treatment. That wasn't a very healthy thing to do. I should work on that. By thinking about all these little things, even if they're small, right? Even if they're not very big, you can think, okay, well, I could have done that better, right? And it's actually a very humbling experience, and not many people have really feel comfortable basically looking at their flaws, right? So it's a very difficult thing to do. I understand that. It's very difficult to look back at what you did wrong. But if you do that, then you can iron it out. You can get rid of it so it doesn't happen again, right? And even if these things weren't massively bad, you can still work on these things and improve them so they don't happen again, okay? So take time to heal. Don't get straight into a new relationship, because if you do, you will bring all that old baggage into a new one because you haven't had time to process things, okay? And the last point that I want to make is that eventually, after you've taken the time to heal, after you've started to make your life a much more better place for yourself, right? After you've started to let things go a lot better, then find someone new, right? Give yourself plenty of time. Usually I say to people, if it was under a year, then perhaps, you only need about 6 months to get over it. But over a year or multiple years, you'll need at least a year or a year and a half to get over it, right? So but the great thing is that when you find someone, right, when you do find someone and they are better looking than your ex, they're nicer to you than your ex, they have, they're less toxic or something, right, something like that, and you find someone genuinely like that, who's 100% better than your ex in all different ways, then you're going to really get over that person really fast. You're not going to really think about your ex anymore because you found someone so amazing. So that's my advice on that. If you would like to get in touch with me personally and you would like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye, guys.